The Story of Three Brothers by Anna Katharina. Read to you by William Rice. Prologue. The earth was rumbling. Little springs cracked rhythmically while big dirty paws broke them. These paws made deep traces in the snow that laid between the bare trees. It was very cold, but not enough for the creature to feel it through its thick fur. It was running so fast that its breath could not turn into steam or even warm up. The night was still inky black, but not enough for the beast to be bothered by it. The monster had perfect sight of every shrub and every tree on its path and weaved between them without difficulty. There was a pervasive smell driving it crazy. The monster could feel it through its entire body. It was running so fast that its heart nearly busted out. Its stomach was not completely empty. Barely an hour ago, it had devoured 2 sheep, the whole livestock at a small farm, and had even swallowed up their bones before running into the forest. Nevertheless, it was still starving. A deer ran from the beast through the woods, but all signs led to the same conclusion. Soon it would lose strength, stop, or slow down. Soon enough, it stumbled over a protruding root. It was like a miracle. The creature first stabbed into the deer's body with its unnaturally wide claws, and then its sharp fangs. Warm red liquid squirted out, splattering the beast's fur and staining the white snow. Some of its blood filled the monster's snout. It felt the blood between its teeth and under its tongue. It was swallowing it greedily. Its strong jaws ripped the deer's meat, and finally, it filled its stomach with the delicious meat. But it was not enough to satisfy the monster's hunger. Dawn. The forest ended. In the distance, between the tree trunks, loomed wooden buildings. The creature raised its snout up high and expanded its nostrils, wanting to smell as much of the scent as possible. It recognized birds, tree bark, other animals, and from far away, into its wolfish nose flew the scent of a bear cave, a foxy burrow, and blood. Human blood. The smell was incredibly intense, as if it was dripping from a nearby tree. A young girl drew water from a well near one of the closest houses. Occasionally, she would clench her eyes and catch her abdomen with one hand. The beast would not wait. Immediately it moved to attack. Its gnarled, wolfish body began moving as fast as it could. Suddenly, a terrible pain grabbed at its neck. It started there and soon spread to the other limbs with dreadful speed. The monster stopped thinking about its would-be victim. It could only feel the deadly pain paralyzing it. Its knees knocked, and it fell down hard on its stomach. It began whimpering so terribly that it would affect anyone if it was not a monster. The suffering was so intense that it could not restrain from howling. The moon hid. The girl near the well noticed that at the edge of the forest laid a huge animal. It then tried to stand up and push itself to take a few steps, only to fall on its crooked spine with a pitiful, weepy whine. It fell down again into the dried-out grass, but did not try to get up anymore. Its body had been shaken by powerful convulsions, and its wolfish howling transformed into more of a human groan. A moment later, the only thing that could be heard was sobbing. The monster's long, hairy tail disappeared. Its claws fell out, and its fingers lengthened. All its bones and joints changed their location and shape. The man was breathing deeply, feeling pain inside him that would not allow him to even raise a hand, with which he would have wiped tears constantly flowing from his face. He sniffed and clenched his teeth, wishing to stop weeping. When he opened his eyes, the light of the rising sun blinded him. He hardly was able to see the girl, who a moment ago was drawing water from the well, now stood above him holding a gun, a bit clumsily, and pointing at him.
Kill me! Kill me and end this nightmare!
The weapon clicked. The lying man crossed himself and closed his eyes. There was a bang. The bullet hit the ground, just next to the man's shoulder.
Whose gun is that?
My father's.
He put his hand on his heart.
This time, put the barrel here. You will not waste the bullet, and I will undeniably die.
Her hands were shaking so hard that he could feel the quivering of the cold pipe on his chest.
Go on!
She winced, startled, reloaded the gun and pulled the trigger. But instead of a shot, all they heard was a click. The man sighed, giving up.
So, you're out of bullets. I suggest you get that one back from the ground.
The girl bit her lip, turned the weapon over, and swung it toward the man's jaw, but he stopped her.
Trust me, there is no reason to be hurting me now, because, forgive me, I do not think that you're able to knock me unconscious for long enough to bring somebody to help. Look for the werewolves a month from now.
She hesitated.
Don't come here anymore. Please.
He got up, still sore. The girl peeked down, blushed, and covered her eyes with her hand.
Could you lend me your apron? My horse is farther away, deep in the forest. I left my clothes in my saddlebag, and I would like to cover myself up somehow.
She turned around and unlaced the dirty rag that she was wearing.
If you do not get the silver bullet back, your father may be angry.
My father's dead.
The girl took care of the farm by herself. Of course, she was receiving help from the neighbors, but despite the homestead's modesty, it must have been very difficult for her. The man wanted to stroke her cheek with sympathy, but he gave up and just smiled sadly instead. Then he turned and moved into the forest.
Goodbye.
When she made sure he had left, she knelt quickly to the ground and skimmed the grass for the silver bullet. When the man reached the trees, he whistled a short, calm melody. He could hear a few meters ahead mockingbirds repeating it. Every so often, a similar tine was repeated, although quieter and further away, until it stopped. He whistled again. It did not take long for him to recognize a familiar clopping sound. From deep within the forest came a big gray horse. It was well saddled. The bridle, despite the fact that it had been used for a couple of years already, did not appear to be very damaged. From the saddlebags, the man pulled out clothes that he had taken off last night, just before the transformation. He put a silver signet on his finger, the boots with sheepskin on his feet, and placed a coppery watch on a chain in the pocket of his thick overcoat.
Flaxen, we have to turn around slightly. We will return home soon.
He mounted the horse and yanked the reins. They stopped close by, next to the deteriorating fence of the farm. The man got off the horse and walked up to the cottage, dirtying his boots along the way. Snow was lying on the mud here and there. The rest of the yard was a soggy land. He knocked softly on the rotten, leaky door. A moment later, at the threshold, showed up the girl he was just talking with.
Take this.
He handed her a pouch full of silver coins and her dirty apron, and then, without a word of explanation, turned heel and walked away to his horse. The girl was standing in the doorstep, stupefied. Her throat went dry, and she was not even able to thank the stranger.
You're a benefactor.
The nobleman already sat in his saddle. He looked at her grimly.
I am not a benefactor, dear child. The types like me are called beasts. You know it well. After all, you wanted to kill me. But I am glad that you did not.
After these words, he galloped toward the road.